Welcome back. Welcome to our third segment. This is for August 17, 2024. We are going to talk about trade of the week. As always, we look at the gaps and we can see, well, we have some unfinished business. We've had some nice moves, especially on Thursday. You can see after the retail numbers came out and Walmart's earning and had been before that confirming so they've been a positive move. We had a little gap down on Friday, and of course we went to our support right to that point, bounced back, closed that gap, and then we finished strong. So one thing I did, I took a trade a little before 11. It was actually 10:48 or 9. It was like only in a trade a couple of minutes. So I just thought, let's analyze it. This is my 233 tick. Just two contracts. These are the E-mini contracts, and you can see I went short. I sold it here right once we broke under the 200 bar moving average. We went and we got rejected. So, and I basically covered in these two spots, and they basically, again, it's probably a couple of minutes, and I will come back to this. So basically what it was from point of view, I just want to share what happened after I sold and why I took and why I closed it. And basically you can see right after I sold, we did have a bounce, went back to, again, the 200. We floated around, so it was really choppy. So we could have been in this trade, start buying and selling and then shorting, and but it was just uh, basically just a trade that I got in. It was mainly to do. I mentioned to you last week. In the volatile markets, you want to play the 1 minute, and this is where it was a 1 minute, and I had my pivot zones, and as you can see, once we broke below the moving average on 1 minute, we went to our support, and I was happy. In a couple of minutes, making $400-500. It's not a bad. I think it was 400. It's not a bad trade. So, but you can see how the moving average was pretty flat, and that flatness, it's just very choppy. So, and then other thing, one of the reasons took a short, you can see these pivot numbers at 55, 55. It was double top. So basically did go there, and then we got rejected. These are the 5 minutes. So it's important. And also we had the CPI number, and what we can see in the CPI number, again, it's our brackets. So these yellow lines are basically bracket, and you can see how we faked it. We went outside, came back in. We went outside, came back in. So it was really choppiness, but we were really, again, it was a magnet to the upper side. And then I go back to that NFP numbers. You can see once we broke above, and then we broke above the upper end of the NFP, we continued going up, and that's the 60 minutes. So you want to pay attention to these things because they help you with your, again, the zones where you want to lighten up as far as your trade goes. So one thing I want to share with you is pay attention to this. What is happening with VIX? It has come down, but are we out of woods? And I want to share, this is from Friday's close. And you see the sizzle index is almost 5, over 4.5. And you see both call and puts, they have a high, much higher. And remember, if it's above 1, there's a sizzle. But one thing you want to pay attention to, you see the calls at bid was 139,000, but at the ask was 182,000. So there was more ask for the VIX calls than bids. The same thing with the puts. There were more bids for the puts, so they were selling puts on the VIX. So pay underneath what is happening. We had a class about options, how the options actually can lead you to find better opportunities in the stock market, and sizzle index is one of them. And so let's go to ETF of the week. Now, ETF of the week, we have as you can see, the semiconductors were the hero, up 9.9%, the SOXQ, but barely down was the downside hedge, was down 0.9%. So that's a hedging vehicle. And then we had semiconductor, again, PSI was up 9.4, and real estate was really the select sector was unchanged. A few things about the stock of the week. So this is important, and I'm talking about volatility. This is our expected move for Starbucks. And as you know, there's a new CEO, and markets really got excited. You know, Starbucks was supposed to have expected move of, I believe, about $2 last week. We had over $20. This is a 10 sigma, 10 standard deviation. It's madness. And this is what has happened. So we did, you know, next week it's going to come back to earth, but you can see things like this happen. And we see that more often than before. Apple also, again, we talked about expected moves. You see how wide it was. It went way outside, and now we are closing way above. But also, I want to show you the Ichimoku, why it's important to look at multi-time frame. And I want to pay attention to this. So we broke above in the 60 minutes. As you know, I really like 60 minutes. We broke above our cloud, and then we are above the turning line, standard line. And this is a nice chart as far as the 60 minutes goes. But the highlighted is when the DMI positive crossed DMI negative. Now, our trend had gotten weak, so you could have waited if you want even stronger, but we still flat 20 is pretty good number. So you could have actually gotten in at this point. The main reason is you are above the cloud, you are above the turning line, you're above the stand line. I mean, you could have gotten here, but I'm talking about just to have everything in its place with again, the momentum and the strength of trend. It could have been a nice trade, and we still positive, you can see, but there's a little convergence here. We still, the trend is strong, but we're getting a little tired. So watch out. Sometimes the markets like to come back and even go hit the turning line. And sometimes they go halfway. We've talked about it, to the cloud. And the worst case scenario, sometimes they will go all the way down to the cloud and have the next leg up. So use these, again, multi-times. NVIDIA, another unbelievable, turnings, and you look at their revenue projections. I mean, it's been amazing. So that, you see, way up again, outside, came back, and we are like more than 2 standard deviation in a positive. Tesla, the other way, again, we are outside the expected move. Last but not least is, let's take a look at Lululemon. Now, it is getting interesting. Lululemon was for a couple of, I think a couple, 2 or 3 weeks ago was our stock of the month, but we needed some closure. It's dropped, had dropped over 50%. Although on a daily, we're still below the cloud, we are getting a little stability, and we have broken above the turning line. So of course it would be good to have at least breaking above the standard line, and there is some nice distance. So we want to watch the 60 minutes, and it has been doing well. And of course, we want to see that the DMI positive crosses DMI negative. You see how the trend is strong. So it might not be a bad idea to get your feet wet and do a little bit of, adding to your position if you want. But, they've done a lot of changes. Of course, they have a lot of disappointments, but now, well, this is China's story. Well, but they have also the men's division. So maybe things are turning around. So just watch that. For our squeeze, talk about Russell 2000. This is quite few from the technical point of view candidates. So we can look into that over the weekend. Last week, the earnings, we had 316 positive in prices, but we had 222 of the companies actually were negative as far as the pricing goes. As far as the results, we had 183 positive, 147 negative, 246 neutral. And then forward guidance, we had 13 positive, but 22 negative. Alibaba beat expectations, but again, it's beyond that. We just don't look at what they have done, but want to see going forward. Now, you can see Walmart missed their expectations, but why did the market like it? Is because their forward guidance is, when you look at it, that the revenue, they upped it from about 672 to 678 billion. Previous guidance was at 667 to 674. So, and also the Whisper estimates was 676. So we want to be forward looking. Applied Material beat expectations. And then we have Cisco. We have just and then Home Depot beat the expectations. This coming week, we still got some retail companies. We have Lowe's, we have Target, we have Macy's, we have TJ Maxx, we have Zoom. We've talked about Cava, the Mediterranean restaurant. Think of Chipotle. So Peloton. So there are a few good ones coming up. These are our volatility. If you want to play the volatility, like Zoom or Macy's. And then we have Palo Alto Network coming with the earnings. Target, Estee Lauder. We have Kava, as I mentioned, Baidu, Snowflakes, Zim Integrated. We have Zoom, OSI, and Macy's. All right. I wish you all the best. Have a wonderful week ahead, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you so much.